right, what's going on, you guys? Nick here with Nick Strength and Power, and the Pittsburgh Pro 2025 is not over yet. The guest posing of the year just wrapped up, and this was a little bit more interesting than we thought it was going to be. The guest posing ended up not only including the 4 guys that were originally advertised, but in totality, you had Samson Dauda, Keon Pearson, Ruff Diesel, which I think was really smart for Ruff to jump in this. We'll talk about that in a minute. Mike Sommerfeld, Ramon Dino, Wesley Vissers, and Matt Grego. So a mostly classic physique guest posing with Keon and Samson representing 212 and open. So from the classic physique standpoint, I think we're almost getting probably an exact first call-out for the 2025 Mr. Olympia. The only guys that we're missing are Urs Kalasinski and probably Logan Franklin. I guess you could say Michael DeBull as well should be up there. But I think there's a really good possibility the first call-out at the Classic Physique Olympia this year will include Ruff Diesel, Mike, Ramon, probably Matt Grego. Wesley is sitting out the Olympia this year. But this is why I think it was smart for Ruff Diesel to join this guest posing, even though he just competed yesterday, just to show what he looks like next to the top guys right now. Since he's been away for a while, he took that time off. Now he won Pittsburgh. He's going to New York. He's going to try to win that show as well, try to improve for that show and for that win. But inserting himself into this guest posing to stand next to the guys that he's likely going to be in the same call-out with, vying for those top spots at the Olympia. And I think he looks really good next to them. Obviously, they're in kind of off-season mode, and he just competed. So it's not exactly an apples-to-apples fair comparison. But I think Ruff Diesel looks great. As far as specifically Ramon versus Mike, which I think was a really interesting part of this call-out, because up until 2024, Ramon was the guy that was pushing Chris Bumstead and placing second and considered the heir to the throne. Then 2024, when Ramon was off, he slipped pretty drastically in the placings, and Mike kind of took his spot. Standing next to Mike, I think Ramon looks better, but I know that Mike has had some health issues after the Arnold, and maybe that's impacting his physique a little bit, so he looked a little bit off here. And again, it's the off season for everybody except for Ruff Diesel. And I said this a couple videos ago, but I'm incredibly impressed with the condition that Ramon is in at this point in his offseason, because he's already qualified for the Olympia. He doesn't need to requalify. He's not competing. He's not prepping for anything. He just looks like this in the offseason, and we know how heavy he is, but he's in really good condition. He's lean. You can see a lot of detail on his physique, and maybe he did do like a little mini prep or a little mini cut specifically for this guest posing. I mean, we know that he got to the States really early for the Pittsburgh Pro. He was here weeks ahead of time. I believe he got here 3 or 4 weeks out from Brazil. But I think it's worth pointing out that he wasn't at the Arnold, so we don't know how he's going to look against Mike for sure at the Olympia, because I think in 2024, the reason Ramon placed where he did at the Olympia was because he was off. And if Ramon is on, and this is kind of an example of Ramon being on, but it's a guest posing, I think he has a really good shot at being back in that conversation for one of those top 2 spots at the Olympia this year. And I think that's what we have to look forward to the most at the Olympia, in addition to men's open bodybuilding, is who's going to try to fill these shoes of Chris Bumstead. And I think one of these guys on stage that we're looking at right here could be that guy. Now, the other segment of this that I was really looking forward to seeing specifically was Samson versus Keon. Keon has expressed his interest in eventually moving to open bodybuilding. He said he wants to compete in open while Samson is still there, so he can stand next to Samson at his peak. And this is really cool because Keon is the current reigning defending 212 Mr. Olympia, and Samson is the current reigning defending open Mr. Olympia. And I think the main thing that jumped out to me here is probably the same thing that jumped out to a lot of you guys, and that is the size difference between Samson Dauda and Keon Pearson. Now, we don't know exactly what Samson is weighing, but we know that he can get and has gotten over 330 pounds in the offseason. I'm assuming from some of the updates that we've seen from Keon this offseason that Keon is somewhere in the 220s. Samson is probably somewhere in the 320s. So that size difference that we're seeing here is literally probably close to, if not over, 100 pounds of muscle. And to be completely fair, a lot of that is Samson is a lot taller than Keon, and probably a lot of that weight is because of that height. And the other reason, too, is that Keon is still competing in 212. He's doing the 212 Olympia this year, so he still has to bear in mind that weight cap for 212. So he's obviously not fully maxed out his physique as big as he can get. But I still think even with that size difference, it shows how good Keon is. Because I think he's still compared pretty favorably with Samson, despite the 100-pound weight difference. You can see how crazy, Samson is known for being a very aesthetically pleasing men's open bodybuilder. And I think this showcases how crazy aesthetically pleasing Keon is with his insane taper, his small waist. I think he compared very well with Samson. Just a very obvious, very evident size difference between the two. But I think that was to be expected. But let me know what you guys think in the comments below. After watching this guest posing, how do you think Keon would do as an open bodybuilder? Not specifically against Samson, but just in general, seeing him next to Samson, seeing him next to the classic physique guys. If he does switch to open, he does put on size, how do you see him doing as an open guy? Would he make it to the Olympia? He'd probably get a special invite. So let's say, where do you see him placing? I think he'd be top 10. I don't know if I'd say top 6 quite yet, but I think he could crack the top 10. And then with classic physique, kind of getting a preview of the Olympia, which of these guys that you see on stage right now do you think would be the front runner going into the Olympia? And if it's not one of these guys, then who is it? Would it be Logan? Would it be Urs? Michael DeBull, one of the guys that's not here? Let me know down below. Now, the final story that I have for you guys today, Hunter Labrada announced in Sweden today that he's actually going to be taking the entire 2025 season off. He says he hasn't had a break since 2016, so it's time for him to take a break, and he's not going to be back until the 2026 season. So it looks like we won't see him on stage at all this year. I know a lot of people were wondering when we're going to see him next. Looks like we won't see him until next year. But that's going to wrap it up for the video today, guys. I hope you did, in fact, enjoy it. Happy Mother's Day to all the mothers out there. And as always, like, comment, subscribe. Love you guys. Appreciate you guys. Nick Strength and Power, signing out. All right, guys, don't forget to click that like button and subscribe to this channel if you enjoy the content. Also, check out my Instagram at Nick Strength Power. My Facebook page, which is simply Nick Strength and Power. My secondary YouTube channel, Nick Strength and Vlogs, for vlogs and bonus content that you will not see on this channel. And consider subscribing to my third YouTube channel, Nick Strength and Pokemon, which is all things Pokemon and trading card games, completely unrelated to this channel. So if you're into that, give that one a look. And all links to merchandise and social media will be in the description box below. If you guys want a Nick Strength and Power t-shirt, that will be in the Shopify link below. Have a great day.